This video is brought to you by Raycon.
Flashy, flashy.
Boy, that direct, huh? Boy, oh boy, that direct. I know, it's been a while, but I can't stop talking about it. The Switch generation has delivered some truly legendary directs, and the June 2024 direct deserves a spot near the top of the list in my eyes. The sheer number of big, meaty crowd pleasers was staggering. A real, honest-to-goodness reveal trailer for Metroid Prime 4 would have already been enough to make a direct a real winner for many folks, myself included, but then we got our first new Mario and Luigi game since the closure of Alpha Dream, and the first title for a home console, and on top of this game simply existing, it also looks amazing. We got a brand new top-down Zelda for the first time in, checks notes, a century, which also happens to be the first title starring Zelda herself. That's a 2-for-1 bombshell right there. Then what looks to be the biggest Mario Party ever, a DKC Returns remaster, that Marvel vs. Capcom collection that was essentially the Mother 3 of fighting games. It was just an endless buffet of joyous surprises. Now, I certainly don't want to look a gift horse in the mouth. You know, I don't want to be an entitled gamer. I came away from that buffet feeling more than satisfied. Stuffed is more accurate, actually. But the direct did leave me with one tiny little question. Where in the flying flatterchuck is the Pikmin 4 DLC? Pikmin 4 has been out for just about a year now at the time of this video's publication, and every single day since its release, I, and many other fans, I'm sure, have been waiting patiently for any word from Nintendo on the subject of DLC. Each Nintendo Direct has seemed like just the right time for an announcement. Even without Directs, that sort of thing could be announced on social media, right? So we have waited day by day for the news to come. And as of right now, it has not come. I think it's pretty safe to say that DLC for Nintendo titles is usually released within the first year of each respective game's life. There are certainly outliers. Bigger expansions might take a little more time. Splatoon 3's Side Order comes to mind. And the recent Direct also announced basketball DLC for Nintendo Switch Sports 2 years after the fact, which was slightly baffling. Then you got the Mario Kart 8 Deluxe DLC, which is its own animal entirely. But for the most part, DLC is all part of the plan. You release a game, shortly after you give the audience some DLC to keep the hype train rolling. Or you even announce an expansion pass before the game actually releases, explicitly promising a bunch of DLC within the first year right off the bat. No surprises. It's certainly true that not every Nintendo game gets DLC. There are some games that seem like a perfect fit for receiving additional content, and it simply doesn't happen. The Super Mario Odyssey DLC ship sailed a long time ago, and that was really surprising. Breath of the Wild got a meaty expansion pass, but it seems that Nintendo isn't interested in doing the same with Tears of the Kingdom. Kirby Star Allies got a bunch of post-launch content, but then Forgotten Land didn't get a thing. As much as I love it when a great game just keeps getting greater well after launch, the fact of the matter is that Nintendo isn't always interested in producing more. Sometimes after a game ships, they decide it's time to move on to other things, regardless of how perfect a candidate that game might be for additional content. However, in the case of Pikmin 4, I find the lack of DLC particularly strange for a number of reasons. The first, this is Pikmin we're talking about. This is Miyamoto's thing. This is his pet project. This is the series that he once thought would be bigger than Mario. He created all these other legendary characters and games, and after that initial NES era creative renaissance, he had one more immaculate innovation to pull from his mind and shape into something truly remarkable. Pikmin is the one major IP he helped create after that initial burst, and we can see that it is very dear to him. And he's Miyamoto. He's not the president of Nintendo, but he's one of the top dogs, and we know he's got a big voice in the company. Pikmin never sold well, and it took a long time to get third and fourth entries, but the company gave those two games all the resources they needed to be great. And since the launch of 4, Nintendo has continued to market the heck out of the game. Pikmin Bloom is also still going strong, to my great surprise, and Pikmin continue to pop up everywhere, from Super Nintendo World to the Mario movie. Pikmin is important to Miyamoto and to Nintendo as a whole, and it would be surprising if they missed out on the opportunity to keep the latest title rolling just a little bit longer, to play with the world just a little more before putting it down again. Stop now! Before we continue, a quick reminder that this video was sponsored by Raycon. Did you know that they recently released an upgraded model of their everyday earbuds, and they're super cool? I already loved my Raycons, but now they are somehow so much better! Their ergonomic design ensures a fit that is always comfortable and secure, no matter what I'm doing. My favorite features are still present, like multiple sound profiles and the ability to take calls easily. But now my Raycons pack in even more: active noise cancellation, multi-point connectivity for connecting multiple devices, and my favorite, quick charging. You can get 90 minutes of battery from only 10 minutes of charging. Combine that with up to 32 hours of battery life when using the charging case, and it means I spend very little time charging and a very huge amount of time listening. That's why these things are my constant cooking companions. There has never been a better time to get some Raycon everyday earbuds, and despite all these upgrades, they are still half the price of other big brands. So hit the link in the description or head to buyraycon.com/Arlo to get 15% off your purchase and free shipping. All orders come with a 100% satisfaction guarantee, so you can buy with confidence. Thanks again to Raycon. Now back to the video. Okay, maybe It's Miyamoto's Baby isn't the best reason why the lack of Pikmin 4 DLC is surprising. More substantially, and quite simply, there is a precedent for DLC in a Pikmin game. The Wii U generation was when Nintendo really started to embrace the practice of providing post-launch content, and they were eager to beef up Pikmin 3 after the fact. None of this was story content, instead taking the form of additional challenge stages, and it didn't introduce any big new ideas, as you might hope with DLC, but it was pretty affordable, so expectations weren't too high, and it still provided a decent chunk of extra stuff to play with some cool new environmental elements. Then on top of that, Pikmin 3 Deluxe came with even more additional content. This time, we finally did get some new story stuff, which I actually assume was originally planned for the Wii U version. So a Pikmin game receiving a good amount of post-launch content is a well-established idea. Unfortunately, as Kirby taught us, a precedent might not mean too much, but I also think a lot of this has to do with just how well suited to receiving DLC the formula is. Pikmin 1 through 3's challenge stages, Pikmin 2's caves, and Pikmin 3's extra campaign in the deluxe version illustrate this perfectly. Once you program all the different enemies and items and interactions and all that, all you have to do is move them around and suddenly you've got new content. Remix what you already have and the experience becomes fresh again. This is exactly why I'm always going on and on about how much I want a Pikmin level editor. The core formula is so much fun that giving us the ability to create our own caves, or maybe even just challenge stages, would keep me playing forever. And the thing about Pikmin 4 is that if 3 was already a great fit for DLC and Nintendo supported the heck out of the game in that regard, 4 is an even greater fit. It is unbelievably perfect for DLC. If you want to hear more of my specific thoughts on this, I did a whole video talking about how a couple patches and a little additional content would make the game perfect. I mean it, just like a flawless experience. But the gist is, the game brings back the cave system from 2. It revisits the idea of small, self-contained dungeons that take whatever the game's got in its toolkit and mixes it all up in different ways. The map geometry is simple, the kind of stuff you could easily create in an editor. The same obstacles and enemies are used many, many times. They're just arranged differently. And the game is so much bigger than any previous title, introducing loads of new enemies while also bringing back what feels like most previous ones. Then, of course, like the challenge levels from previous games, 4 has got its own Dandori challenges and battle stages. Even if you set aside the idea of giving the keys directly to the players, Nintendo themselves could only take what they've already got, mix it up a little, and I would happily buy whatever they ended up with. A simple little batch of Dandori challenges? I'd be a little disappointed, but I'd take it. Some bonus caves? Ooh, now we're talking. And if they wanted to get even fancier, maybe throw in some new enemies and mechanics, even a whole new campaign wouldn't be too hard to staple to the old one. The game ends with you still just kind of sitting on the planet, so more story wouldn't really get in the way. And Olimar's side story shows that it is quite easy to provide a completely separate little campaign that doesn't interfere with the main one at all. Whatever Nintendo decided to do, whatever avenue they chose to explore, it could be done without issue. The game genuinely feels like it was built for DLC, built for either us or them generating additional content. It's already a big game with lots of content, don't get me wrong, but it also somehow feels like the framework for an even bigger experience. It feels like the bones of a project that deserves to just keep going. Pikmin 4 feels like a really exceptionally amazing Lego sculpture, and you marvel at the thing. It's just incredible. But you also see all the little individual parts that make it, and you see how they work together, and you dream about all the other things one could make with those same Legos, and then you're looking for the box that they came from, and it's just not there. Where's the box? What else are you gonna make with this? I wanna make some stuff with this. And it's also worth noting, so much of the growth the series has seen in the last year or so has been thanks to the internet. Whether you're talking about Nintendo selling us extra nasty, super hard caves and Dandori challenges, or letting the community make those themselves, that is perfect streamer bait. To put it bluntly, nothing grows a game like a consistent stream of new content. And nothing gets people watching that content like content creators struggling hard. I will always say, just look at what the internet did for Super Mario Maker. If we had something similar for Pikmin, I'm pretty sure that is all I would ever stream, ever again. And despite all that, despite Pikmin 4 being such a ridiculously good fit for DLC, we still haven't gotten so much as a whiff of post-launch content. I mean, even if Nintendo never wanted to sell DLC, I still expected something. Maybe just a couple little free Dandori stages, just to drum up a little interest on social media. The kind of small, almost throwaway content Nintendo loves to put out there after a game's launch. Just a little extra something, because why not? At the very, very least, some tiny new features to encourage people to start up new files and get talking again. A true co-op mode, ultra spicy mode, new game plus so we can actually use some of the abilities that you don't get until the very end of the game, which is so frustrating. I feel like these are the obvious, bare minimum. But nope. For Pikmin 4, we got nothing. Nada. Zip, zilch, zero, etc. And perhaps it goes without saying, but I do find this personally disappointing. Again, Nintendo DLC has been pretty common in recent years, so if Pikmin 4 is one of those games that inexplicably just doesn't get DLC despite being a perfect fit for it, that will sting, as you might expect. Out of all the Nintendo games out there, did this have to be one of those? However, obviously, we don't know what Nintendo's plans are. For all we know, they'll announce something at the next Nintendo Direct, or on Twitter on some random day in November or something. It's an old cliche at this point, but indeed, crazier things have happened. And I'm certainly not getting my hopes up, but maybe it's taking so long because they're cooking up something real big? Huh? I mean, it ain't impossible. We could get some huge expansion that releases 2 years after the fact, Shadow of the Erd Tree style. One can dream. If you want to talk about dreaming, though, there is one last thing to consider. Once more, not getting my hopes up, as this is pure speculation, but I can think of one solid reason why Nintendo might not want to give us Pikmin 4 DLC, despite the game being a perfect fit for it. Soon after the release of the game, a Eurogamer interviewer asked series producer Takashi Tezuka if they might be able to give us Pikmin 5 a little more quickly. A bold question, I must say. And Tezuka simply smiled and said, I think that would be best as well. We'll try not to let everyone wait. When we had to wait 9 years for Pikmin 3, it felt like it must have been an anomaly. Surely that wouldn't happen again, right? Surely Nintendo wouldn't subject us to another wait like that. And then Pikmin 4 took 10 years. So naturally, Pikmin fans are slightly traumatized when it comes to the subject of how long the next game might take. But considering Tezuka's words in that interview, and the fact that Pikmin 4 is easily the best-selling Pikmin game so far, it would not surprise me if Nintendo was eager to get Pikmin 5 into the pipeline sooner than later. The series has finally got a decent little winner under its belt, and they might want to capitalize on that. And if they wrapped up with 4 and looked at that box of Legos and started dreaming up the next thing they might build with them, well, that would be a fine reason to refrain from giving us DLC, especially if they wanted to follow the lead of Pikmin 2 and use many of the same assets to deliver a timely sequel. I can see why they would be happy to wrap 4 up in a little bow and call it done. It would make sense, wouldn't it? Suddenly, a game not getting DLC despite being a perfect candidate for DLC wouldn't seem so strange at all. Well, thanks for watching. Oh, it's from the pharmacy. Ooh, my copium's ready.